When you focus on yourself and work hard, everything begins to fall into place not instantly, but gradually, deeply, and meaningfully. It all starts with understanding that self-focus is not selfish. In fact, it is one of the most strategic things you can do for your life, your goals, and even for the people around you. Too often, we're conditioned to believe that putting ourselves first means we're neglecting others or being self-centered. But the truth is, when you're running on empty, when you're constantly distracted by everyone else's expectations, and when your energy is scattered in too many directions, you lose sight of who you are and what you're capable of becoming. Focusing on yourself means redirecting your attention inward to your thoughts, your values, your habits, your purpose. It's about becoming aware of your strengths, your weaknesses, your passions, and your pain. It's about getting honest with yourself, facing the areas you've ignored, and deciding to take responsibility for the life you want to live. That takes courage, it takes awareness, and it requires you to silence the noise around you and tune into what really matters. When you truly begin to focus on yourself, you shift your energy away from comparison and toward growth. You no longer waste your time measuring your progress against someone else's highlight reel. Instead, you measure it against who you were yesterday, who you are today, and who you're becoming. That shift in mindset is powerful. It gives you back your power, your time, and your peace. It allows you to set boundaries not to push people away, but to protect your focus. You begin to realize that not every distraction is urgent, not every opinion matters, and not every opportunity is aligned with your path. And when this shift happens, something else starts to change. You begin to attract what matches your energy. The relationships that drained you start to fade. The habits that held you back begin to lose their grip. And you find yourself surrounded by people, ideas, and opportunities that push you forward instead of pulling you down. It doesn't happen overnight, but over time, as you continue to pour into yourself, the external world begins to mirror that internal growth. Things that once felt chaotic start to organize themselves. You feel more centered, more in control, more alive. But self-focus is not a passive act. It requires discipline. It requires you to be intentional with your time and energy. It means waking up early when you'd rather sleep in. It means turning off the noise, whether that's social media, toxic conversations, or negative self-talk, so you can hear your own voice clearly. It means setting goals that are rooted in your values, not in validation, and most importantly, it means showing up for yourself, especially on the days when it's hard. There will be days when you feel like nothing is working, days when progress feels invisible. But those are the moments that matter most because they're testing your commitment, your resilience, and your faith. When you choose to keep going, when you decide to trust the process, you're building more than just results. You're building character, you're building grit, and those inner qualities are what hold everything together when life feels uncertain. What's beautiful about focusing on yourself is that the benefits extend beyond you. As you become more grounded, you inspire others to do the same. As you set boundaries, you teach others how to respect theirs. As you level up, you open doors not just for yourself, but for everyone watching you. You become a quiet example of what's possible, not because you said you would, but because you did. This is where everything begins to fall into place, not through luck, not through shortcuts, but through alignment. And alignment only comes when you are rooted in who you are, clear about where you're going, and committed to doing the work. So while the world may try to pull you in 100 directions, stay centered. While people may not always understand your journey, keep walking it. And while the results may take time, remember that growth is never wasted. When you focus on yourself and work hard not just for a day or a week, but as a way of life, life begins to respond. Not always in the way you expect, but always in the way you need. And eventually, everything truly does fall into place. Hard work is often misunderstood. We're told it's all about hustling non-stop, grinding until we break, sacrificing everything for the sake of success. But when you truly focus on yourself and apply hard work with intention, you begin to realize that the reward isn't just the result at the end. It's the alignment that comes from the journey. It's the way everything starts to connect, not by force, but by flow. When you show up consistently and put in the effort with purpose, you begin to shape a life that reflects who you really are, and everything starts falling into place in ways you couldn't have planned. When you dedicate yourself to something with genuine effort, whether it's a goal, a skill, your personal growth, or a vision you believe in, you're sending a powerful message to the world and to yourself. You're saying, I'm ready. You're choosing discipline over distraction. And when you do that over and over again, things begin to shift. You might not see the results immediately, but underneath the surface, everything is building. Your mindset is sharpening. Your focus is deepening. Your habits are aligning with your goals. That's the kind of hard work that truly changes your life, not just on the outside, but from within. Hard work is what builds your internal compass. It teaches you how to stay grounded during setbacks and how to stay humble during wins. When you're focused on yourself and the work in front of you, you stop chasing things that aren't meant for you. You begin to attract what is aligned with your energy and purpose. This is what people mean when they say things fall into place, not because they magically happen, but because your hard work creates the space for the right things to find you. But let's be honest, there will be times when the work feels thankless, times when no one is clapping, no one is watching, and nothing seems to be changing. Those moments test your commitment. They ask you, are you doing this for validation, or are you doing it because it matters to you? Are you working hard only when people notice, or are you willing to do the invisible work, the unglamorous work, the daily grind that builds something real over time? The truth is, there's a kind of quiet power that comes with working hard in silence. You begin to realize that your value isn't determined by someone else's timeline or approval. You're no longer obsessed with the outcome because you're in love with the process. And that's when your life begins to shift, not all at once, but step by step. You start to notice how the things you used to chase are now chasing you. Opportunities begin to align. People who resonate with your energy begin to enter your life. Goals that once felt impossible begin to feel within reach. Not because anything outside of you changed overnight, but because you changed from the inside out. There's a reason why the most successful people in the world often say the journey mattered more than the destination. It's because the process of working hard reshapes you. It gives you clarity, it humbles you, it forces you to grow. It aligns your character with your calling. When you focus on yourself, you stop wasting time on what everyone else is doing. You stop comparing, competing, and complaining. Instead, you start creating, evolving, and showing up with purpose. And here's the key: working hard doesn't mean working blindly. It doesn't mean burning yourself out or saying yes to everything. Real hard work is smart, it's intentional, it's rooted in priorities. It's choosing the task that builds your future, not the one that just fills your time. It's being honest about what matters most and then giving that your best energy, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one else understands. Eventually, you reach a point where your efforts compound. All the small decisions, the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices, they start to add up. You find yourself in situations that used to intimidate you, now feeling natural. You realize that you've become the person you once dreamed of being. Not because of luck, but because of consistency. because of the quiet, focused, disciplined work you chose to do day after day. That's alignment. That's when everything begins to fall into place, not by chasing it, but by becoming the version of yourself that attracts it. So when it feels like it's taking too long, when you're tempted to give up or cut corners, remember this. The universe doesn't reward laziness, and it doesn't respond to half efforts. It responds to energy, to consistency, to intention. And when you focus that energy inward and combine it with hard, meaningful work, you become unstoppable, not because everything goes perfectly, but because you're no longer relying on perfect conditions to move forward. You don't need all the answers right now. You don't need to see the full picture. You just need to trust that the work you're doing is leading somewhere, that every step, even the small ones, are shaping your future. And as long as you stay committed to your growth, to your path, to your discipline, everything else will fall into place, exactly when it's meant to. One of the most common myths we carry is the belief that we need to have everything figured out before we start, that we need a perfect plan, perfect timing, and perfect clarity to begin working towards something meaningful. But the truth is, clarity doesn't come first, action does. When you focus on yourself and work hard, clarity is something that reveals itself along the way, not all at once, but in layers, through experience, trial, and persistence. You don't find your way by standing still, you find it by moving forward. So many people wait for the right moment to begin. They wait until they feel confident enough, skilled enough, or ready enough. But life rarely gives us that kind of certainty. And waiting too long becomes a form of fear dressed up as preparation. If you want your life to change, if you want things to fall into place, then you have to be willing to begin without knowing exactly how it all turns out. You have to trust that the road will become clearer the more you walk it. When you focus on yourself, you learn to quiet the noise and tune into your intuition. You start recognizing which choices feel aligned and which ones don't, not because someone told you, but because you're actively involved in your own process. That involvement matters. It teaches you what works and what doesn't. It gives you feedback, and slowly, you stop relying on outside opinions and start trusting your own judgment. That's how clarity is built, not from overthinking, but from doing, from showing up, from taking small steps that may seem insignificant in the moment, but are laying the foundation for something much bigger. Clarity is not a lightning bolt moment. It's a slow unfolding. It's built through the effort of showing up for yourself every day. Some days you'll feel certain, and others you'll feel lost, but both days count. Both are necessary. Because confusion isn't the enemy, stagnation is. You can work through confusion. You can learn from missteps. But you can't learn anything from staying stuck in one place. You can't grow if you're too afraid to begin. This is why hard work and self-focus are so powerful. When you commit to doing the work, especially the work that helps you grow, that stretches you, that forces you to think deeply and honestly, you begin to create momentum. And momentum brings direction. You start noticing patterns. You discover what energizes you and what drains you. You learn which habits push you forward and which ones pull you backward. That awareness doesn't just appear, you earn it through action. There's a kind of confidence that only comes from taking the leap, even when you're uncertain, from trying, failing, and adjusting, from being willing to look foolish in the beginning so that one day you can look back and be proud. That's the kind of confidence that lasts, not the kind that's built on ego or image, but the kind that's built on earned experience, on real effort, on the kind of hard work that shapes your identity and your direction. When you stay focused on yourself, you stop worrying about needing everything to be perfect. You realize that perfect doesn't exist, only progress does. You stop comparing your step 1 to someone else's step 10. You stop holding yourself back because you don't have all the answers. Instead, you learn to take the first step with the answers you do have and trust that the next step will reveal itself in time. That trust is everything. It's what allows you to keep moving even when the path is unclear. It's what keeps you grounded when doubts creep in. And it's what gives you the strength to keep working hard even when you feel like nothing's happening. Because deep down you know something is happening, something is shifting. Every time you take action, you're telling the world and yourself that you're serious, that you're not just wishing for things to fall into place, you're working for it. And it's through that work that alignment begins. Slowly, the puzzle pieces start connecting. Opportunities that once felt out of reach become accessible. People who align with your values begin to show up in your life. Ideas that once felt unclear now begin to form into something real. Not because you waited for clarity, but because you were brave enough to begin without it. The beauty of this process is that it builds trust not just in the path, but in yourself. You begin to believe in your ability to figure things out. You stop needing everything to be laid out in advance. You embrace uncertainty not as something to fear, but as a part of growth. And that mindset changes everything. Because now, instead of waiting for permission, you give yourself permission. Instead of hesitating, you act. And instead of wishing, you work. That's when things fall into place, not because the road was smooth, but because you chose to walk it anyway. Because you stayed focused on your growth, you put in the work, and you trusted the process even when it didn't make sense. That's how clarity is created. That's how momentum is built. And that's how transformation begins. You don't need to have it all figured out to take the first step. Just the courage to begin, the discipline to keep going, and the belief that clarity will meet you along the way. It's easy to feel inspired when everything is going right, when motivation is high, when progress is visible, and when energy comes naturally. But what happens on the days when none of that is present? What happens when you don't feel like getting out of bed, when the excitement fades, or when the obstacles feel heavier than your drive to push forward? That's where the real work begins, because in the moments when motivation disappears, discipline is what keeps you moving. And that's why, when you focus on yourself and work hard, it's not about chasing quick highs. It's about building the strength to keep going even when it's hard. Discipline is one of the most valuable things you can develop on the path to growth. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't always feel good. But it's consistent. And consistency, more than anything else, is what makes the difference between people who dream and people who build. Motivation can get you started, but it won't carry you through the valleys. It won't show up for you every day. It's unpredictable. Discipline, on the other hand, is a choice, a habit, a mindset that says, I'll show up anyway. When you're focused on yourself and your goals, discipline becomes your anchor. It keeps you grounded when life gets chaotic. It gives you structure when your emotions are all over the place. It teaches you how to keep promises to yourself, even when no one else is watching. And that is powerful, because the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. If you can trust yourself to show up and do the work, regardless of how you feel, you become unstoppable. But let's be real, it's not easy. Discipline means saying no when it's inconvenient. It means sacrificing comfort for progress. It means choosing the long-term win over the short-term pleasure. It means creating habits that support your growth instead of feeding your distractions. It's waking up early when it would be easier to hit snooze. It's staying focused when your mind is pulling you in 100 directions. It's doing the thing you said you'd do, especially when you don't feel like doing it. The beauty of discipline is that it compounds. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you strengthen your belief in yourself. You reinforce your sense of purpose. And that inner strength grows with each repetition. Eventually, your actions become automatic. Your focus becomes sharper. Your confidence grows not because you've achieved everything, but because you've built the habits that will get you there. That's the kind of growth that lasts. It's not built on bursts of energy. It's built on steady effort. When you commit to discipline, you stop waiting for the perfect conditions to take action. You understand that progress isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's quiet. It's hidden in the small choices you make each day. The meal you choose, the words you speak to yourself, the decision to push through another hour of work or training or learning. It's all connected. Every small act of discipline is a building block in the life you're creating. Focusing on yourself means knowing that growth doesn't always feel good in the moment. Sometimes it feels like struggle, like resistance, like doing what's uncomfortable now so you can live with freedom later. And that's where discipline comes in. It's the tool that bridges the gap between where you are and where you want to be. It keeps you steady when doubt creeps in. It gives you direction when everything feels uncertain. And it reminds you that progress is still happening, even if you can't see it yet. What's important to understand is that discipline doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you never fall off track. It means you don't stay there. You bounce back, you reset. You keep going, because the goal isn't to be flawless, the goal is to be committed, to be relentless, to be honest with yourself when you've slipped and courageous enough to start again. That's what separates people who talk about change from those who actually create it. When you live with discipline, you begin to value consistency over intensity. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about doing something every day, small, intentional actions that align with your values and your vision. And over time, those actions compound into results, into character, into a version of yourself that is resilient, focused, and in control of your life. This is the phase where things begin to fall into place not because you forced them, but because your discipline created space for alignment. Your hard work carved out a path. Your consistent effort became the signal that told life, I'm serious about this. And life responds to that kind of energy. It responds to people who don't just want success, but who are willing to earn it. There will still be setbacks. There will still be days when doubt tries to creep back in. But when you've built discipline, you've also built a kind of quiet confidence, a belief in your ability to keep going no matter what. You're no longer swayed by fleeting emotions or external validation. You move because you've made a decision to keep moving, and that kind of inner power, that's where transformation truly begins. So the next time motivation fades, and it will lean on discipline, lean on the habits you've built, the commitment you've made, and the person you're becoming. Because when you focus on yourself and work hard through disciplined action, the life you've been working toward doesn't just feel possible, it starts becoming real. When you focus on yourself and put in the work, something profound begins to shift within you. You start to become the kind of person who attracts what you once chased. In the early stages of any journey, we often try to control everything. We chase opportunities, people, approval, validation, and results. We think that if we push hard enough and run fast enough, we can force things to happen. But the truth is, the most meaningful things in life don't come from chasing. They come from alignment. They come when who you are matches what you want. And that alignment is only possible when you've done the inner work first. What many people fail to realize is that most of the growth they're looking for isn't found outside, it's found by going inward. Focusing on yourself is not selfish, it's strategic. It's how you build the mindset, the discipline, and the energy that naturally attracts the right opportunities, relationships, and experiences into your life. You don't have to beg for what's meant for you. You don't have to compete for it. When you become the person who is aligned with what you desire, those things start showing up. not because you forced them, but because you're ready to receive them. This is where the real magic of hard work and focus begins to show, because you're no longer trying to control timing or outcomes. You're simply becoming the version of yourself who is ready when they arrive. That's a shift that changes everything. It takes you from scarcity to abundance, from chasing to attracting, from desperation to confidence. Suddenly, you stop running after people who don't see your value because you recognize your own. You stop compromising your standards because you've built something within yourself that's worth protecting. The kind of life you're working for doesn't require you to chase endlessly. It requires you to elevate, to build, to grow. It's not about proving your worth to others. It's about knowing your worth and letting your energy speak for you. People can feel that kind of energy, so can opportunities. When you walk into a room grounded in your purpose, with a quiet confidence that comes from self-awareness and effort, you don't have to speak loudly. Your presence does that for you. This kind of transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of everything you've already built. The focus, the hard work, the discipline, the clarity. Every step you've taken so far has brought you closer to alignment. And with each new day, as you stay consistent, you begin to notice that the things you used to struggle for are now showing up more effortlessly. The doors you once knocked on are now opening on their own. Why? Because you're no longer trying to fit into someone else's world. You've created your own, and that world is rooted in authenticity, not performance. Think about it. The best relationships are the ones where you don't have to pretend. The best jobs are the ones where your values align with the mission. The best opportunities are the ones that feel right, not because they're perfect, but because you are ready for them. And readiness isn't something you stumble into. It's something you work toward every single day by focusing on becoming more of who you are meant to be. We live in a world that rewards visibility, where it seems like everyone is chasing something: attention, success, followers, recognition. But the truth is, lasting success isn't built on chasing trends or copying others. It's built on being so rooted in who you are that you naturally stand out. That level of authenticity only comes when you stop trying to impress the world and start working on impressing yourself. And that means doing the work behind the scenes, in silence, when no one's watching. Because those moments shape your character. They refine your energy. They prepare you for the things you want most. Eventually, you'll reach a place where the outer world reflects your inner growth. That's when you'll realize you no longer have to hustle for things that used to feel out of reach. Your energy will attract the right people, the right paths, and the right timing. And if something doesn't align, you won't feel the need to force it. You'll know that what is meant for you will find you, and if it doesn't, something better will. This doesn't mean life will be perfect. You'll still face challenges. You'll still have moments of doubt. But you'll meet those moments with a different kind of strength, because you're no longer building your life around external things. You're building it from within. And when you're grounded in that way, the chaos outside can't shake your peace. So if you're in a season where it feels like you're putting in the work but not seeing the results yet, trust this: the alignment is already happening. The foundation is already being laid. Keep showing up. Keep focusing inward. Keep growing, even when it's quiet. Because everything you're working for is also making its way to you. And when you're truly ready, when who you are aligns with what you want, everything will fall into place.